De Digital Be-In. Ter herinnering aan de Be-Ins die in de 60er jaren in San Francisco werden gehouden. Er zijn er al een aantal Digital Be-Ins geweest. Waar de digerati en de New Age en de Old Age samenkomen. Waar de mensen die geloven in ufo's en zotten en de Maya-tijdrekening en wat u maar wilt, allemaal samen komen dansen, feestvieren en elkaars creatieve expansies bekijken. We gingen een kijkje nemen en spraken onder andere met een swami. Die je wel een beetje als een New Age swami kunt betitelen. De Digital Be-In in San Francisco met muziek van onder andere Van Tuzi. Ja, op de Digital Be-In. En we zijn er net achter gekomen dat de eerste, de original Be-In was in 1967 in Californië. Where was the first Be-In?
I believe it was in Golden Gate Park. Probably at the, I wasn't there, but it was probably at Speedway Meadows with free music and people dancing and doing very much the same things they're doing tonight.
Yeah. We're talking with
Swami Chaitanya.
Swami Chaitanya. That sounds like part of the Indian thing that we have since the 60s. There is an influence from the East, and that started in the 60s.
Yeah.
You got influenced by it, obviously.
Yeah. Well, actually, a good bit of the influence of the East was through the beatniks and then through Gary Snyder, but also in the hippie era in Haight-Ashbury, there was a newspaper called The Oracle, and there were many articles about Indian religion, Indian gods and goddesses, and about Buddhism, right? So many people in the hippie movement in Haight-Ashbury were interested in swamis and yoga and doing meditation.
In turn, they were influenced by people like Ginsberg, who became a Buddhist.
Right. And then, of course, it goes through people like Richard Alpert, who was a professor of psychology and became a devotee of Neem Karoli Baba.
And he called himself
Ramdas. Yeah. And so he was one of the people who brought an awareness of Indian gods and goddesses and Indian forms of yoga as a meditation technique, so that when you're in the psychedelic world, which is one of the things that raves and these kind of Be-Ins are about, and the original Be-In was all about people taking psychedelics and sharing psychedelics, that the yoga discipline gives you a place to focus the mind and bring your energy into one point so that magical events like this happen, right? And all of the people here who are able to bring their energy together in order to make all the different things that are being created at this evening.
Swami, you are a devotee or a follower of the Hindu faith, but particularly what strand of that?
Well, Shiva Shakti, which is the absolute equality of male and female as the energy that manifests in the universe. The Shiva is the static idea, the potential of being. And that is the dance of Shiva, the creator. But the energy of Shakti, which is on the energy plane, and that is equal to the material plane, that enables the idea to manifest in time and space on Earth, right? So the total interaction of the Shiva Shakti, of the male and female, is what makes the physical reality be here. This what is sometimes known as Maya.
Which is illusion and creation at the same time.
Exactly, illusion and creation at the same time, and it has an aspect likewise of creative play. That this is what the divine energy is doing in order to see itself, manifest itself. I sometimes think that if you take all the people's eyes in the world, everything that everyone sees, and everything that every animal sees and every insect sees, and you add that all together, how can you add that all together? Everything that's seeing at the same moment, and that's sort of what God sees. Or the greatest being that surrounds this thing that is all-seeing, sees everything that we're all seeing all together, and what we're all hearing all together.
But that brings to the metaphysical question. If there is a tree in the woods, nobody sees the tree. Is the tree there?
Nobody sees, or you're talking to hear the tree, if the tree falls in the woods, yeah. Yes. Well, because it's illusion, right? Is it in your mind? Is it in your dream? Is the dream more real than what you call the reality of the tree in the forest. If you think there's a tree, of course there's a tree. This is the playful mind of God. Any idea that you could possibly have is all the ideas that God has all together. And all the ideas that we're all having all the time. All those.
Now, practical life, where do you live?
Where do I live? Well, I live many places. I move about. I spend a lot of time in the Indian Himalayas and in South India.
Where do you spend time in India?
Particularly, you want me to spell it out?
Yeah. Where?
Oh,
Rishikesh or what, in the north?
I spend time in Kosani.
And that's in the foothills of the Himalaya?
It's in what it's called the Lesser Himal. A pinpoint is near Almora district. Do you know? Have you ever been to India?
No, but I have been to India, but not to that northern part of it.
Yeah.
Been to Tibet and Nepal.
You've been to Ladakh?
No, that's a very interesting place, isn't it?
It's a wonderful place, yeah, because in Ladakh the things weren't destroyed. So there's so much.
It's like the Tibetan culture as it should have been.
It's a Ladakhi form of Tibetan culture, always, right? Because the Buddhism, in many ways, came into Ladakh first before it made its way further into Leh, into the further part of Tibet.
But do you like being in India?
Oh yeah, I love being in India.
Why?
Why? Well, spirit is everywhere. Spirit is everywhere. Right?
I was hoping you would say there's less electric disturbance and computers and stuff like that.
Oh, less electric disturbance. I don't know. No, everyone is addicted to electricity in this world right at the moment. India wants more and more power consumption all the time. That was one of the nice things about setting up this beacon. You know, at a certain point I went to the electrician and I said, I need a little more electricity. I blew a fuse and I'm running some slides of India, which I take visiting temples, right? So she says, well, everyone has their power needs, right? She says, everyone has their power needs, and we'll deal all with those at a certain point. Someone will go by and check everything that's switched on, right? So, you know, but now in a being situation, everyone is trying to share the power needs. So in the end, I solved my power needs with the guy who set up the laser light. He says, I've got an extra plug. Here, plug one of your projectors in, right? Have you got enough power over here? Well, how can I run a line? Well, it's going to be... So everybody's like sharing the power. And all of a sudden, we're almost plugged in everything in the whole building. But it's kind of divvied up, as we'd say. So everyone's sharing the power, and that gives us liftoff.
Now, it was Fantuzzi who pointed you out to me. It feels to me that you are not one of these serene guys who sits in a corner and meditates all day. What do you do for practice?
Well, I do meditate. Well, strictly speaking, I'm not supposed to tell you what I do in my practice, but I do a practice in morning and evening. But I'm an artist creator, you know, and that's one of the dances that Shiva does, is the dance of creation. So, but every day you do a little maintaining, the dance of maintaining, and every day there's a little destruction, something ends and so on, right? And every day there's a little bit of an illusion that you have to see through, right? And every day there's a little bit of grace. And those are all the dances of Shiva, right?
Where does the ego come in there? Is that what you have to take apart?
Oh, I don't know that you take apart the ego.
But it's there.
Oh, see, now what that word ego is. Now, where do we get that word from, right? Where do we get that? Is that
I don't know, it's Latin.
Is that Freud's word? Anybody know where that word?
No, it.
It. It. Id.
Yes.
Id. I see. Well, how do you divide your consciousness then? The Indian philosophy of body consciousness talks about 6 chakras that are awareness centers that are also centers of your vital organs. Right? And they're centers of imagination as you purify them. And you work up through stomach and heart and throat, and this is pituitary gland, third eye, right? So these energizations and visualizations channel the energy and purify your whole body into the vibration.
So in that concept there is no need for the ego as a defense system. I mean, I think that's what most people would describe the ego as, a defense system that we build up against, I don't know, the frustrations of life. You have to be something
I don't know what we're talking about in terms of ego. I think maybe in so many people have what is an identity. And that identity has a face, right? That's an Asian concept that, you know, I have a certain way of living, a certain way of being, and I have a certain face as a result of that. And that's expectation when you grow up of like, it's my family, or it's my education, or it's all of these things. And so there's a certain thing one is expected to do, right? So who is you? Are you the one doing all those things? Or are those just
things? Am I living other people's expectations?
Yeah, exactly that way, right, yeah. So,
who am I then?
Yeah. So the question of jnana yoga, right, yoga of knowledge, is sometimes called the yoga of direct realization. And of course there's the old conundrums of he who says he knows, knows not, and he who knows, says not. But when you're talking about the yoga of knowledge, this is a whole branch of philosophy which has to do with how do you know what you know, and how do you know that you know it. The three levels. You mentioned something like three before. You know, we have Trinity, in many religions have a Trinity. And the Trinity comes out of unity, because the minute you say unity, you get duality. As soon as you say unity, you get the idea of a duality, right? And once you have unity and duality, then you got Trinity. And so the rest of the universe is created in that moment.
So what's then the relationship between knowledge, which is definable, which is in fact a separation, you know, you know something, and wisdom, which might be knowing nothing, being nothing?
Oh, that's like the Tao of the Chinese, yeah. Well, in the jnana yoga they talk of knowing, three again, knowing, the known, and the knower. It's very simple, right? There are three things. There's an object out there which is the known, and I'm the identity witnessing, I'm the knower, right? And then the activity of uniting my consciousness with that object out there is the knowing of it, right? And so when there's no distinction between these three things, then you're it. The Chinese talk about painting in terms of qi, and they have the brush if they want to do the coconut, if they want to do the bamboo, if they want to do the peony. They study and then they get the energy of it, and boom, the brush goes and out comes this thing, because they identify with it, the energy of it. So that knowing and the known and the knower are the same, right? So I like an example of when you're learning to walk. Do you have any children? Do you ever have any children? So what is this moment of this child learning to walk, right? And you see a child learning to walk, and they're kind of thinking about it, right? They're watching everyone else, and they're grabbing, you know, and they fall, and then they let go, right? But there's also this mental process going on. They're thinking about it. Now, how do I? Gee, everybody else is doing it. How do I? Right? And so there's a difference between knowing about walking or standing, right, and the knower of the guy trying, little kid, your son or your daughter trying to do it, and the actual walking itself, right? And then at a certain point in that child's moment when there's no difference anymore, and all of a sudden, oh, they're standing up, right? And it's not like separated between, oh, I know about walking and I'm watching myself walk, and so on. And that's the way all sorts of knowing really is.
The threefold thing that reminds me of the Gurdjieff teaching, and but also of a poem that says, "Between me and the mountain, there's but God to enjoy."
Enjoy. Now that's you see.
Between me and the mountain, I'm watching the mountain, and so there's.
But that's what I got is the enjoying God. It was what you say, right? Between me and the mountain, what is there but to enjoy God, right?
No. Between me and the mountain, there is but God to enjoy, and that goes two ways. Okay. God enjoys me and the mountain, and I enjoy the mountain. Or is the mountain enjoying both of us?
Yeah. And where does that statement come from?
Oh, it's a poem I dreamt up.
A poem you dreamt up. Because you see, it sounds really like an old Calvinist slogan or a Presbyterian, right?
Well, I think it's actually a Sufi-related.
The point of existence is to enjoy God, right? And so how do we celebrate? God's playing. If this existence is God's playing, let's have fun with God. How do we celebrate? Now, throughout history, people have celebrated tribally with dance, right? You know, any number of tribes all over
This happens to be the digital tribe.
This is the digital tribe. Well, it's actually a blending of many tribes. It's not only the digital tribe, it's the Bian tribe, and it's some of the Goa tribe, and it's Amsterdam tribe, and it's San Francisco tribe, and New York tribe, and it's the digital tribe also. This place here, the Somarts, is home turf. This is the heart of San Francisco right here. Right?
South of Market.
South of Market,
Art Center, yeah.
But Somar, South of Market Art Center. But this is a building that came into being through the community action of the artists of San Francisco, who got together and went to the government and said, you're building a big new opera center for all the people who love opera, and you're building a new symphony center for all the people who love symphony. How about something for the rest of the community who have so many other ways of expressing and having art and being creative? And so throughout San Francisco, over the years, any number of, well, actually a limited number of art facilities have been open. You see, the thing is, in San Francisco schools, they took out art and music in the curriculum for budgetary reasons, right? So the volunteers and artists have got together, and now the city has a budget for this. There's funding for this place, which has grown up slowly over the years from an abandoned warehouse into a facility that has, an amazing ability to, create an environment.
Create a Shiva-like. Or Shiva Shakti.
It's something that the community started and organized, the community of artists, and carried through, and then with the city government help and with all sorts of other foundation help. All this equipment is here, and people are here to do the work. But it's all people who live within 15 or 15 minutes of here, who are doing.
Some of us come from far away, like us talking with Chaitanya, Swami
Chaitanya.
Chaitanya.
Chaitanya means consciousness. Om Namah Shivaya. It's consciousness of Shiva Shakti.
Okay, thank you for your.
Thank you very much.